With the devil. I thought I'd talk about this. It's something about the way some people speak to me and regard me, and by virtue of their contempt for me and what it is that I do, I think it really feeds into how they feel about you, and I'll explain why that is the case. Because who am I? I'm no one. I didn't write articles, didn't have a fancy job, wasn't on a huge salary. I was really lucky to be able to stay at home with my kids. Like most people who grew up in working class households, I'm like two mortgage payments away um, from losing my house, like everybody else. Um, and I have the temerity of having an opinion that I speak up and say without fear. And part of that is because the way I was raised and how I was raised and the sort of home life I had, um, and also the sort of friendships I had at school and the fact that I went to a playgroup. My mother worked. She was shamed by other people for working, but it was because of that we were the only family out of all my mother's siblings and all my father's siblings that never lived in a council house. And that was because, my mum didn't eat for 2 days a week so that we could afford to pay a mortgage. And my father working 12 hours a day sorting sheepskins um, in a factory when I was born. So that's that's kind of that's why it's very easy to be ignored. Now, I did go to university. I'm very, very lucky I went to uni, but I didn't go in a professional job. I went in a job that did pay quite well before I had my children. But it's just that. It's that I don't have a veneer. I just have truthful speaking. Um, I don't think it's necessary to give great big long explanations as to why I don't think women have penises. I don't put in caveats. I just speak quite honestly about the things I see in front of me, and I trust myself. I've got good instincts for a variety of reasons. I've got good instincts, so that's why. That's why, despite the fact that I was on most of the British newspapers and newspapers across the globe, but most of the British newspapers in 2018 for putting up that billboard. And prior to that, I've been in the Times newspaper for being interviewed under caution about speech, about this particular issue. I was a pioneer. It's a common theme. Um, and then throughout the last 6 years, I have continued to make the news, right? Not not ask the newspaper to publish me, not make great friendships with some columnists so that we're all in a nice little happy-go-lucky group and I'm included. I mean, I have fought my way into the newspapers and created stories. That's what I mean. I mean that I didn't go out and say to everybody, "Can you donate to a billboard?" I basically said, "You know what? I want to raise money for a billboard. I think I can sell some t-shirts with what I want to put on the billboard. I'm not even going to tell anybody what it is that I'm fundraising for, but they just know that they're buying a t-shirt and some stickers for something, and then that something was revealed." So when I've been trying to update everything recently, and there is no blueprint for the things that we do here at Let Women Speak. There's no blueprint. I was thinking the closest thing is sort of the body shop for a cause being funded by amazing merchandise. Not not the amazing merchandise being the be all and end all and the end point of the cause. That's not it. We also then redo with the funds we get through these items. We try and stretch out as far as humanly possible so that we can put on these extraordinary events. So I mean, look, if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong, but I'd be interested if anybody could think of an organization that works like this, like quite magic. Um, just I'm so proud of it. But because I sell merchandise in order to do this, apparently it's a grift, according to Sir Billy of Bragg. Apparently, it's a grift to do this, to want to debate a man who has felt it okay repeatedly over the last couple of years to call me really defamatory things, to take a photo of me on the other side of the world where the event was being held, or there was my picture on a lamppost and Billy Bragg took a photo of it, right? So this is this is particularly what I'm talking about, that, um, somebody made it Billy Bragg basically made a comment, about Women's Hour and about needing to be some balance. And oh goodness, I agree, Billy. Which is why it's completely ridiculous that Women's Hour didn't interview me about literally the dictionary definition of the word woman, which is part of the program's name. Why wouldn't it have been of great interest to a radio program devoted to women not to feature that, like the absolute erasure of women's rights? And for me, unlike other things, my end goal by doing this merchandise, by stopping my focus on my family, like solely on my family, really, really quite enjoying my life. Had a pretty nice life, thanks very much. To focusing on this because I want to restore women's rights. I don't want to stop just stop the erosion that's happening. I don't just want to I want to restore every damn right that we mistakenly or otherwise believed we had. The right to use a female only space without a man entering. The right to nobody else being called a woman. The right to our own pronouns and language. The right to even have our own cancer. Thanks very much. The right to women's cancers. The right to women's health. The right to knowing that when you see the word woman, it means woman, and when you see the word man, it means man. The right to have not having our language diluted by pretending that men also get pregnant, or that chest feeding is a more inclusive thing than breastfeeding. Right? So these are the things that I am working towards. And had I not been awakened to this, I would still be very happily, thanks very much, just staying at home, sometimes tidying my house, baking, and doing all those things that apparently means that I can be totally discarded, ignored, and called a grifter, because Billy Bragg doesn't call a woman that's written a book a grifter. Apparently, a woman that puts um, grassroots events for any woman, no matter what her political affiliation, no matter what her religious belief, no matter what her socioeconomic situation, she has equal value at a Let Women Speak event and is permitted to speak. The space is created in order for her to speak. And that happens with the funding that we get through merchandise and donations here at Let Women Speak. And I think it's really quite funny that if you write a book or if you write articles in newspapers that talk about this particular issue, apparently you're not a grifter. But if you're some woman who comes from a working class childhood, not now, but a working class childhood, and dares to say that my voice is important enough to speak, then, and I'm not just talking about Billy Bragg, I'm talking about Billy Bragg, Women's Hour. It's the same thing, right? Billy, has Women's Hour ever actually covered anything that I've done? I mean, for fuck's sake, I went to New Zealand last year, and I basically nearly got crushed to death because I wanted to speak in public. You'd think that was a story that Women's Hour might have actually covered, right? Might have actually covered. Might not be polite enough for everyone, but that's why this thing that we do here, this thing that people dare to try and insult us with the word populist, this thing we do here is so much more terrifying for the people who want everyone to be polite, who want to use words like male body, who think it's all right to invite people onto their program because they're not really going to say, yeah, but they're men. They're fetishists and they're men. They want to masturbate in our spaces. They want to pull things out the sanitary boxes and shove them into their orifices. The men that get sexually aroused by wearing nappies. The men that get sexually aroused by women's discomfort with them in their spaces. That's not polite. That's not what the BBC want to hear. That's not what broadsheets want women to say. We have to say a sanitized version of what we think, which is often why I and therefore you are completely ignored. And I know there are some news coverage, but even on our side of the debate, there are some people that will have quite an insignificant campaign that lasts a moment. They'll have them talking about that. They'll devote like 10, 20 minutes in studio with people talking about other things. But the invitation isn't extended to me. And I can only think it's because I really do speak a straightforward, honest truth. And I really don't care what anybody thinks about that, because I think I am so over people saying words other than men for these men who LARP as women. I mean, if you want to qualify who they are, they're men that LARP as women, that men that pretend to be women. They're men that get a sexual kick out of pretending to be women, right? So I just want to make it really clear that when Billy Bragg says something like that, and the whole thing, I mean, look, somebody even said when I said about him debating me, and he always refuses because he's a gutless coward. Someone said, "Oh, what about Helen Joyce?" Like, thanks very much. I don't think I need to be replaced. Be replaced. She's an excellent woman. She's amazing. She's incredible. But please don't do that. Please don't try and sanitize the things that I do by suggesting somebody else. It is really quite offensive and insulting. Anyway, here's a little insight as to why Mr. Billy Bragg thinks that he is progressive and down with the kids.
As I say in the Supreme Court. But yeah, it's one of those situations where the gay and lesbian community have made huge advances, and it's absolutely clear that particularly the trans community are now in the front line and are the target of so much hatred as part of the cultural wars. And it's kind of a really interesting thing happened when I was talking.
I'll just say, he just said, lesbians are gays, basically, you're fine. You've won everything, you're fine. And just because you lesbians are now being told that you like penis, and you little gay men are told that you must actually fancy somebody with a vagina, which euphemistically we call a woman, it doesn't mean that you haven't had your rights eroded. You're hunky-dory, tickety-boo.
About it on tour. A young trans person tweeted that how great it was to hear Billy Bragg audience respond in the way we did to the idea of supporting the trans and non-binary community, how they felt seen to be in an...
And they felt seen because they're so invisible. People that call themselves trans or non-binary, they're so invisible. Like, you just never hear anything about them.
Audience like that. And this is the kicker, and this is not said in any kind of sarcastic way, in a very real way. They said how great it was to find that reaction in an audience that came of age in the 1980s.
Progressive people, they didn't come of age. They just got old.
And that says something about how we have been able to get our priorities right now, but also how we're seen by young people. How we're seen.
That's really it, isn't it? How he's seen by young people. Billy, you're old. You're getting old and irrelevant like all the rest of us.
A little bit dated in our views, and there is a cohort in the Billy Bragg audience in England that had a little bit of trouble with the issue of trans rights. How can I describe them politely? I think the best way I could describe them...
and this is where he shows utter contempt for his fans.
...to call them geezers of my age. Yeah. And they tend to be the kind of geezer who comes to the Get Clash t-shirt.
Oh, mocking and deriding his own fans. Brilliant. Let's laugh at those men who don't want men in their daughters' changing rooms, Billy. Yeah, let's laugh at those men. Let's laugh at those men who want their elderly mother to be cared for by an actual female in her own home. Yeah, let's laugh at those men, Billy.
Comes to tell me all the things they did during the miners' strike, and how radical they are, they're feminists and things like that. Those kind of guys who are...
Those kind of guys who actually were the people that helped get me famous. Let's talk about those kind of guys. Those kind of guys who bought my records when I had nothing. Those kind of guys who thought when I was singing about being anti-establishment that I was actually telling the truth. Those kind of pricks.
Rather resting on their radical laurels, having done not much really in the last 20 or 30 years.
Whereas what I've done in the last 20 or 30 years is I've said women have penises. I stood by it. I've even changed some lyrics in my songs. Like, totally radical.
Those guys, love them, bless them. They were there in the day. They were there back in the day. And they did their bit. And more power to them for doing their bit.
But now I'm going to make you all laugh at them. And we're totally going to disrespect them together.
But, wake up, friends. Margaret Thatcher's dead. You know? At least we hope. Halloween coming, who knows? Things have moved on. Things have moved on.
And now, in many ways, I've become more Thatcher than Thatcher.
The new generation that's come through addresses politics in a different way. It's not as ideological as it was when we were doing stuff in the 80s.
No, because pretending women have penises and men have vaginas is not ideological at all. It's totally anti-ideology.
Why would it be that Berlin Walls come down? We live in a more or less post-ideological society. And I think the key thing is, or to me, the interesting thing, is that the great political campaigns of the 21st century, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, Extinction Rebellion, they're not ideological, but what they have...
Extinction Rebellion are not ideological. All right, love. All right.
In common is they are accountability movements. They're seeking to hold those in power to account. And if, you know, although it's not ideological...
Did you hear the 3 claps? I think he's got them all on side now. Those 3 people.
If socialism isn't about holding the powerful to account, what is it about? You know, that's the antithesis to the divine right of kings.
Yeah, I'll tell you something as well. Those people changing all our laws, forcing all our language, diluting what it means to be a woman, riding through the corporations, putting flags up everywhere, adorning trains with progress pride flags. They are not, if they're not anti-establishment, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. I think if those people, you know, if socialism is not about holding the establishment to account, I don't know what it is. No, Billy. No, I don't know what it is either. It actually sounds like the establishment these days.
It's accountability. That's what they fought the Civil War over. In my country, what they called the good old cause was ultimately accountability. No one is above the law. So
no one's above the law except if you're a bloke who maybe sexually molests a girl, but you say that you did it because you were gender confused. And then in many ways you are above the law, but that's totally beside the point.
Not that far away. And for my on the minor strike, it's not that hard to get your head around, because the things that certainly the Conservative government are saying when they seek to stigmatise, particularly the trans community, the things that
going down the mines, getting asbestos in your lungs and everything, and then losing your job and watching your whole community collapse and not being able to put food on the table and standing by your morals and actually picketing to try and get better workers' rights is the same as wanting to get your dick into a female toilet. And if people can't get their heads around that, I don't really understand it.
They say about the trans community are almost word for word what they said about gays and lesbians in the 70s and the 80s. Almost
gays and lesbians and the minors. Don't forget about the minors. They all said that about the minors, which is why the trans and the minors are so similar.
Word for word, same shit, different day. It's not that hard to get your head around, mate. So
yeah, because I tell you what, Billy, because back in the 70s they were telling lesbians they just needed dick. And then back in 2024, they're telling lesbians they just need dick. So you're actually right, but for all the wrong reasons. But for me, the highlight of today has been the miners and their starving families and their collapsing communities are exactly the same as men with cocks trying to get into the women's changing rooms in prisons and kids having their total puberty blocked and their sexual function eradicated and been made infertile. It's exactly the same as the minors.
I've read this song that I want to play for you now that kind of encourages and to perhaps, I'll just put it as bluntly as I can, without being rude. We're never going to be hip again, lads, all right? Stop.
Fucking mirror, that's all he needs, isn't it? It just needs a mirror. Talk to himself. That's all he needs. Anyway, I thought I'd do that. Look, Billy Bragg has, I don't follow Billy Bragg. I know some people do, and they've been terribly disappointed about the misogyny that he's revealed. It's clearly been sitting there his whole life. And I just want to say that if he hadn't gone out of his way to publicly vilify me, to say really quite revolting things about me, including after I'd been attacked in New Zealand, if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't ask him for a debate. I've not sought out this man and his following so that I get some sort of special platform from him. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, love, Billy, if you keep prodding me for my attention and saying horrible things about me, I think you should be courteous enough to actually say it to my face, to have a conversation in which you defend the allegations that you've made against me and you answer for the misogyny that you keep spewing that comes across my radar. That's all I'm saying. So, it's not particularly difficult. It's not some sort of crazy grift. Oh, why is this woman asking Billy Bragg? Oh, she must be trying to get something from him. Yeah, answers. I want you to be accountable. It's all about accountability. I want you, Mr. Bragg, to be accountable for the things you've said about me and the things that you've said about women uh, fighting for the restoration of women's rights. I just want you to be accountable for the words that you utter. And I think considering you find accountability such a virtuous pursuit, then I think you should give me a chance for you to find you accountable for the things that you've said about me. So I know it's painful when people use your logic against you, but I'm afraid that's what I've done. Okay. If you can uh, keep look, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. I don't care who says things. I don't care about the person who says it. I care about the fact that it's right or wrong. I really, really don't care. I am not persuaded just because I like someone to think that the words they utter are correct. And I'm not persuaded just because I don't like someone that the words they utter are incorrect. I'm quite happy for people that I really, really dislike, quite actively dislike. I'm happy to say that some of the things they say are right when they utter them and say the things that I believe are true. Um, it's an unusual thing in this day and age, but I feel it's really, really important. So anyway, so if you would like to be accountable, Mr. Bragg, um, I'm happy to do whatever you want to have this public debate. We won't record it. We will just put it out live. It can be as short as 20 minutes. And we will both just go by polite discourse where you can tell me why the things that you've said about me are true, and I can explain to you why they're not. And you can explain to me why it's okay for someone with a dick to go into a female only space. I'd like you to tell me why it's okay that women have to make room for men in their spaces, in their language, and in their rights. So if you want to be accountable, that's just what I'm saying. Um, but if you can come on Sunday, and you know that you may be with other people that you don't agree with, you don't like very much, but you're there because you think the issue is important enough to stand firm, stand tall, then I promise we will win. If you can keep being brave, can help us set up the party, please go to the partyofwomen.org if you would like to make a donation towards the setup fees. And goodness knows, the barrister alone is going into thousands just for legal. Then I promise we will win. This is olive green. It doesn't look it. I wonder if it does if I do that. So it's a lovely olive green top, and in fact, we've got an olive green tracksuit for your perusal. You can get the sweatshirt tracksuits at the moment at 80 quid, which is a pigging bargain. Um, and do you know why else we're going to win? Because I never lose.